welcome to the Granny Square series, episode 57, square number 52, the last square. And here it is. It's one of my favourites. I didn't know whether to do this square or last week's square as the last square because I love them both so much. They'd look really nice together, just as a 2-square blanket, I think. So let me know in the comments if you've been following along or if you're making all 52 squares. I'm going to link Heather's blanket. It's been really nice seeing her progress as she's made several of the squares and joined them together. It looks really nice. So let's get started. To begin, I'm making a double magic circle and chain 1. So for round 1, we are going to make 12 US doubles, or if you're using UK terms, 12 UK trebles. Yeah, so however you like to make your starting stitch, you can do that. I'm going to make a US single, UK double and chain 1, and I'm going to use that as my first stitch, and then I'm going to make 11 more stitches into that double magic circle. US doubles, UK trebles, yeah? So we're going to have 12 stitches all together. If you're making along, you can press pause and I'll see you at the end of the round. At the end of your round, just count your stitches to make sure you've got 12, including that starting stitch, and then we'll tighten the circle. If you don't like using magic circles, you can do like a chain 4 and slip stitch instead. So pull that one tight. There we go, and then we're going to slip stitch across to join. Whoops. Cool. And that's how your work should look at the end of round 1. Round 2, we're going to chain 1 and then we're going to make 12 puff stitches, 3 loop puff stitches. So we're going to make 1 puff stitch into each of these stitches we've just made for round 1. So to make our starting puff, we're just going to pull that chain up to the height of a US double, UK treble, yarn over, go into the space, pull through, pull that back up, yarn over, so we're going in the second time, this is our second loop, and then a third time. Yeah, you should have 7 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 7 loops, chain 1. And then into the next space we make a 3 loop puff stitch, yarn over, pull through all 7 loops and chain 1. And we're going to go all the way around our circles, making 3 loop puff stitches and chain 1. So that at the end of the round we should have 12 3 loop puff stitches and 12 chain 1 spaces. So if you're making along, you can press pause . So at the end of round 2, we've just chained 1. You should have 12 puff stitches. Just count them to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then we're going to slip stitch into the top of the first puff stitch to join. And then slip stitch into the chain 1 space. Chain 1. And that's how your work should look at the end of round 2. Round 3, we're going to turn these little circles into squares. So we've just slip stitched and chained one into that chain one space. We're now going to make a US single, UK double, and chain two. So this is our edge stitch, yeah. We look at the pattern, that's the edge stitch. All the edges are in between the stitches, and then we're going to make the corners into the stitches. So we're now at our first corner. We're going to skip that first puff stitch, and into this puff stitch we're going to make a 3 loop puff stitch. Yarn over, pull through all 7 loops, and then don't chain one, just go straight back in and make a US double, UK treble. We're now going to make another puff stitch into that same space. Again, a 3 loop puff stitch. Yarn over, pull through all 7 loops. We're now going to chain 2, and we're going to repeat that into that same space. So we're going to make a puff stitch. When I say space, I mean stitch. So again, a 3 loop puff stitch. Yarn over, pull through all 7 loops. Don't chain, just yarn over and go back in to make a US double, UK treble. Oops, drop my stitch. And then we're going to make another puff stitch into there to complete the corner. Again, a 3 loop puff stitch. I don't think we'd fit 4 loop puff stitches in there. Yarn over, pull through all 7 loops, and then chain 2. We're now at the edge, so we're going to work into the chain space. We're going to skip the first one, which is there, and go into the second one, yeah? So US single, UK double, and chain 2. And we're going to make our second corner the same as we did the first. So we're going to skip the first stitch and then work into that stitch, making all of those same stitches, and that's our full repeat. So we're just going to go all the way around. If you're making along, you can skip back to the beginning of this round, or if you've got that in your head, you can carry on. Press pause, and I'll see you at the end of the round. I'm now at the end of round 3. I've chained 2. I've made my last corner, chain 2, and now I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch we made, and then slip stitch across into that chain 2 space, chain 1. And that's how your work should look at the end of round 3. Isn't it pretty at that round? I think it's really cute. Round 4, so we've just chained 1. We're going to make a US single, UK double, and chain 1. So all the stitches now are going to be US doubles, or if you're using UK terms, UK trebles. Yeah, so we're going to make our first 2 stitches after that one into on the top of the puff stitch, which is actually the US double, UK treble we made. And then into the next puff stitch, yeah. Now don't worry if you get confused where we're putting those 2 stitches. As long as there's 2 stitches above those 3 stitches, we can then go into the corner and make 2 stitches, chain 2, 2 more stitches into the corner, and then we're going to make 2 stitches across the top of these 3 stitches, the 2 puffs and the normal stitch in the middle. So go into where they're going to be evenly spaced, yeah? So 1 and 2. Oops. Try again. And 2. And then into the chain 2 space, we're going to make 2 stitches. We're going to hop across and make 2 more stitches into the next chain 2 space. And we're at our next corner. So again, we're going to make 2 stitches across the top there. And then into the chain 2 space, make 2 stitches. Chain 2. And 2 more stitches into that space. So we're just going to carry on going around like so. Yeah, if you're making along, you can press pause and we'll finish our squares together. So we're back at the start. I've made my 2 stitches in that chain 2 space, and now I'm back to the starting stitch. So I'm going to make my another stitch into that chain 2 space. So we've got 2 in there. And then we've got that starting stitch. So we're going to slip stitch across into the first full stitch we made. And pinch that together, and then that makes that look like a proper stitch. And then either cut and tie your yarn or carry on to join it. But that's the end of the square. Isn't it lovely? I really like this square. I think this would be nice on its own, just a blanket of these squares. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this series. There's a couple more episodes to come with borders and things, but that's all of our squares now. That's 52 in total, so that could be a square for each week of the year. Let me know in the comments if you're planning on making any blankets, and I'll see you in the next video.